Governor J.B. Pritzker firing back at the idea of federal resources coming in. My first thought, absolute fury. Have we lost all sense of sanity in this nation?
Whoa, okay. Strong start. But my reaction, I actually completely understand Pritzker's fury. That same question, have we lost all sense of sanity? I think it applies more to the approach being suggested than Pritzker's response.
How can you say that? Look, Chicago's crime, the homicides, the gangs, it's been bad for years. It stems, in my opinion, directly from lenient local policies. They just haven't held criminals accountable.
But hold on, the recent data, the actual numbers, they show significant declines in homicides and violent crime in Chicago. That's not because of some threat of federal overreach.
Declines from what? Record high.
It's progress. And it's linked to local strategies, community investment, targeted policing. These are evidence-based things that seem to be working.
Evidence-based. Federal intervention works. We've seen it help in other cities. They bring resources, they bring enforcement power that local guys sometimes just don't have to really dismantle these networks.
Okay, but the kind of intervention matters, right? Trump's proposal, deploying federal forces like that risks making things worse. Escalating tensions, infringing on the state's role. We've seen these heavy-handed federal interventions before.
So we do nothing.
No, that's not what Pritzker's saying. He's talking about needing federal funding, federal support for the local strategies that are showing results, not an unwanted federal takeover that ignores local knowledge and, frankly, often comes with serious civil rights concerns without fixing the root problems.
To me, this is pure political posturing from Pritzker. Optics over safety. He's refusing help, and people are suffering because of it. How can you possibly argue against more safety for citizens? This is about saving lives, not playing political games.
But it's not arguing against safety. It's arguing for the right kind of help. It's about respecting local expertise, respecting strategies that are actually working. We need collaboration that builds trust, not these top-down mandates that often backfire and destroy community relations. That doesn't lead to long-term safety.
Okay. Let's move on. Equally infuriating, if you ask me, Illinois LT Governor Juliana Stratton directing, let's be clear, illegal aliens to a website with resources on how to evade immigration enforcement and get lawyers. Are you kidding me?
Evade enforcement is, well, it's a loaded way to put it. I see this quite differently, and I know a lot of people do.
How else can you see it? Providing resources specifically designed to help undocumented immigrants get around federal law. My opinion. That completely undermines our borders. It strains public services funded by my tax dollars, by your tax dollars.
But isn't it about ensuring people understand their rights? Providing accessible legal resources that helps immigrants, regardless of status, know what the law actually says, what their rights are.
Rights to break the law.
No, rights under the law. This fosters a more humane system. It protects vulnerable people from being exploited. Think about due process isn't that fundamental. These kinds of initiatives help prevent families from being ripped apart. They support due process.
This is just signaling that states like Illinois will shield lawbreakers. It encourages more illegal entry. It makes things worse for communities, more competition for jobs, for housing. It distracts from the real issue, stopping uncontrolled migration in the first place.
I disagree that it distracts. I think Stratton's guidance addresses the complexity head-on. It offers practical help that can actually lead to orderly resolutions within the system. Empowering people with information doesn't weaken the rule of law.
It absolutely does when the information is designed to circumvent the law. Prioritizing aid for people who bypass the legal process disadvantages everyone who follows the rules. How can anyone defend a policy that helps people break federal law and then makes taxpayers foot the bill? It's completely unacceptable.
Because ignoring people's rights just because they're immigrants, well, that feels like a betrayal of our core values. Everyone deserves due process, especially when they're facing incredibly complex legal situations they likely don't understand. That's not circumventing, that's navigating.
Navigating around the law. Okay, all right, let's shift gears. Sunny Hostin. Sunny Hostin, bless her heart. She actually said, I bet you there are a lot of people that voted for Trump that wish that Kamala Harris is in the White House. My gut reaction. She's living in a different reality.
Well, maybe not so different. I actually found that observation pretty insightful. Maybe it's less about wishing specifically for Harris and more about, changing feelings.
Changing feelings, come on. Trump's actions, the economy before COVID, border security, they absolutely validated his supporters' choices. Those policies delivered real results that lined up exactly with what they wanted. National strength, less regulation.
Okay, some results, sure. But my take is that there is some emerging dissatisfaction among some Trump voters, and it's not imaginary. There are legitimate concerns over, let's say, chaotic policy rollouts or promises on things like healthcare or economic fairness that didn't quite pan out for everyone.
Where is the widespread regret she's talking about? Claims like that just overlook the broad satisfaction people felt and still feel about boosting jobs, cutting red tape. Hostin's comment, I think, just shows a huge disconnect from everyday Americans who like that focus on practical stuff over, ideology.
But isn't that dismissing genuine concerns? Maybe it's not widespread regret across the board, but Harris's approach, generally seen as more about inclusive governance, steady leadership that could appeal to people looking for more stability now, especially after some turbulent years.
Appealing how? Her policies are the opposite of what they voted for. Ongoing support for Trump, in my view, proves people want leadership that gets results, that's resilient. She's just plain wrong. Where's the evidence of this regret? I know plenty of people thrilled with how things went.
Well, evidence isn't always in polls, right? It's in conversations, it's in subtle shifts. Hostin's comment, I think, points to maybe a growing sense that, hey, perhaps some progressive policies could actually address the needs of more people. The political landscape is always shifting. You can't just deny that some voters, even former Trump supporters, might be looking for something different now, something more stable or inclusive. That's just ignoring the reality of the American electorate. It's nuanced.
Nuance doesn't mean wishing for Kamala Harris. Okay, final round. Let's finish strong. President Trump's, frankly, brilliant move on the Space Force HQ. Taking out of Colorado. Why? He said it. The problem I have with Colorado is they do mail-in voting, and they automatically have crooked elections. And you know what? He's exactly right.
Crooked elections. Wow. That's quite a claim, and frankly, a deeply misleading one.
Misleading. Colorado's reliance on mass mail-in voting. It absolutely raises legitimate concerns about election integrity, vulnerabilities to fraud, irregularities, my opinion. It compromises public trust. We shouldn't be rewarding states with, as he put it, crooked fox's office.
But where is the evidence of widespread fraud in Colorado? My understanding is that mail-in voting there has been incredibly secure and accessible. It actually boosts voter participation significantly, which seems like a good thing for democracy, right? It's a well-documented success, not some fraud-ridden mess.
Success at making it easier to cheat. Relocating Space Force to a state with more secure voting that makes sense. It ensures a critical national defense operation isn't tied to questionable local policies. It's about accountability, transparency.
Or is it about partisan grievances? Because Trump's decision looks like it was driven purely by his feelings about the election results, not any real strategic need for Space Force. It seems totally unnecessary.
It's about protecting national security. This move aligns with trying to make elections nationwide more secure, preventing systems prone to manipulation. By picking a state that upholds rigorous standards, it reinforces that we need to safeguard our institutions from potential corruption.
But it potentially wastes millions of taxpayer dollars on a move based on what? Unfounded claims. It completely ignores the proven reliability of Colorado's system and the huge economic hit to the communities losing the headquarters.
When you can't trust the vote, you can't trust anything. This was a necessary move to protect a vital part of our military from a compromised system.
I just think prioritizing actual evidence over conspiracy theories would serve our national interests and our wallets a lot better. We shouldn't let baseless claims dictate national defense decisions. That seems incredibly irresponsible.
Whew. Okay. That was definitely an exchange. We threw a lot out there today.
I certainly did. You heard two very different perspectives on some major stories shaking things up right now.
And hopefully you got a real taste of just how passionately people feel about these issues across the country. I definitely think I landed some winning blows, but hey, I'll let you, our brilliant listener, be the final judge on that one.